It's finally time to talk about Salt and Sanctuary. So this game came out a long time ago and was announced and talked about for quite a long amount of time, in my memory at least. And it came out for PlayStation, I think, only, or maybe it was also Vita, but it didn't come out for PC, so I can't play it. And I really, really wanted to play it because it's basically 2D Dark Souls. That's kind of the tagline, 2D Dark Souls. And I love Dark Souls, and I cannot wait to see more people, more ideas, more stuff thrown at the basic formula of Dark Souls and see how that works out. And this is a good take on 2D. I didn't really know too much about it, but it's Dark Souls. I just want more of the same. I am at that mode that I just want more of the same. And it finally came out on Steam. It was actually a shock to me because I had no idea, and a friend of mine, oh, by the way, Salt and Sanctuary came out today on Steam. I was like, what the hell? So immediately that day I bought it, and I played it for 40 minutes and I asked for a refund because I don't want to play it. And I was really, really excited for it. And I've had a lot of time I had a couple of weeks to calm down from that experience. And the first thing that I want to say is that I don't think that it's a totally bad, horrible shit game. I don't think that. And I actually think that if I'll ever come into it with a new perspective and play it, I will enjoy it probably a lot. It's not the best game ever, but I'll probably enjoy it a lot because I like the Dark Soulsian experience, and it does have that in a way. But, yeah, it has a couple of issues. It has a lot of things, and that kind of, it was kind of like, I don't really like this, and it was enough small things that just came up to the big thing that I really didn't like, and that's when I just closed off the game. When I saw that, I just closed off the game. So let's just get started. First of all, the way that it starts is totally fine and totally predictable and understandable. And when you thrust into something like that, and there's so many controls on the controllers, and they're different from what you're used to, which is perfectly fine. This is something that you come in and it's like, okay, I am not comfortable right now, but I will get used to it because this is new, and there's so many things that I could do. There's so many buttons. If you try to think about Dark Souls, which seems so obvious right now, there's so many different things that you could do. Holy crap. There's like 8 or 9 different types of attacks when most people just use click. Just use R1, 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 where you really could do like different combos and things, and jump attack and thrust attack, and there's so much. So obviously there's a lot here, and I need to start learning it and start getting into it. And I was excited, and I was kind of getting into it. So the tutorial area is fine, but right after the tutorial area, you're already thrust into a really big choice that you have no idea anything about. And this is something that Dark Souls does not do. Dark Souls does not give you meaningful choices that you have no idea what it is. It does not give you that very, very quickly. And this game kind of did, and that was the first bulb. That kind of like, okay, I have to choose a covenant right now out of several covenants. I have no idea what any of these choices mean whatsoever, except for kind of like trying to build my character. However, you did give me a class at the beginning, which again, I don't really know anything about, but that's okay, that's a class. So you give me a bunch of multiple choices at the beginning of the game. And you don't have to like throw everything at the player immediately. I didn't really like the secondary choice. The first choice was really the class, and I looked it up, and I wasn't entirely sure, but I was pretty sure that the class that I wanted to take was the class that doesn't have anything, that doesn't start with anything, and it's a blank slate, because that's what I enjoy playing. I enjoy understanding the game before I make any decisions. And it was that. I just checked it really quickly, and yeah, that was the class that doesn't have anything, so it doesn't have anything, doesn't mean anything, so I picked it and moved forward, and that was fine. But then the Covenant choice immediately. And then a bunch of stuff that I don't understand. And that's fine, because you need to learn them and understand them. And the way that you do that is just playing through the game and reading item descriptions and talking to people. And that's perfectly fine. But there's a lot of different things here. First of all, we're 2D. And it is very different. A lot of Dark Souls is really walking through the level. And the level design and the atmosphere of having everything around you. There's a lot of, it's really hard to try and express and explain, but there's a lot in just taking in a big area that doesn't have any threat to you, but has a lot to explore. And when I say doesn't have threat, this is very special, because things obviously are very threatening in Dark Souls, and first of all, you could take this into the hub areas that are safe, but also other areas. Once you kill the things, once you know the area, you're much more safe. And here, it feels very, very different. It is the same. You kill stuff and then they're gone. They don't respawn until you go to a bonfire or you die or anything like that. But it's because of the way the levels are structured, because it's a 2D game, the verticality, it works very different. And it feels very, very different. And that's one of the big things. The way that it feels is so drastically different. Now, a point about the art style, which I don't entirely like, but I don't put too much emphasis on it. Me not liking it is one thing, but it's not there functionally, is what I feel. Because how do you hide something in Dark Souls? How do you hide something in Dark Souls? You put it around a corner. It's 3D space, so you're gonna miss it. And that's fine. Your field of view isn't everything around your character at all times. And there's something very powerful there that allows you to get lost within this geometry of space. And in 2D, I see everything. So how do you hide things? You put them very, very dark and very, very not contrasted with the background. And I think it's terrible. And it's just annoying instead of being, ooh, interesting and exciting. It's just like, oh, come on, I couldn't even see anything. It feels frustrating to me. And you could say that you just need to be more intuitive. But that's not the point. It's not like they got me. It's just, it's like, I can't see anything. And that really pissed me off. And that happened multiple times. More so than that, traps are also harder to see. I mean, I walked up to something trying to understand what was forward. And this is the standard kind of trap that you have. Trying to understand what was in front of me. And then the floor under me just fell. So I fell down and died. And that is clever in the sense that you're looking forward. You're obviously looking forward, so you're gonna get screwed by walking down, like what's below you. And I'm not saying that Dark Souls doesn't do that, but it doesn't do that much. It doesn't set a trap in front of you that is really just trying to freaking get you, and there's nothing you could do about it. In a way, I'm trying to think up. I'm coming up blanks in terms of examples to big traps that Dark Souls does do, but there's usually more things that you could do about it. Is how I feel. That thing felt cheap, and we could sit down and analyze it a little bit better. But that to me felt a little bit cheaper. And obviously, once it happens once, it's not going to happen again because I know that this is a thing that could happen, especially in that particular spot. And then I'm just going to have to start, trying to not get screwed by that. But a lot of the things that they do, and obviously it has to have a lot of verticality because there's not a lot else that you could do, just doesn't feel, the level design, it doesn't really work that well for me. It feels not the Dark Souls thing. I don't know if you could make it better. It's not like the level design is bad. It is good for what it attempts to do, but I don't like what it attempts to do, and that here stems the problem. I could get used to it. I could probably get used to it. It's something that it probably comes from me expecting Dark Souls too much. And this is a bias that is very powerful and very terrible because it disallows me to play the game. But it's still very much there. And alongside the lack of contrast, which really pisses me off. The level design is one thing, but the lack of contrast really pisses me off. I just didn't want to play that much anymore. And note that I have talked about a lot of things that aren't the combat. So let's get to the most important point. I hate it. I think it's cheesy as hell. Really, really, really cheesy. It doesn't work. That type of combat doesn't really work in 2D. The boss, I fought the first boss and I beat him, and it's just, it's really stupid. It felt so gamey. It didn't feel like an exciting combat that every boss in Dark Souls feels like. It felt super gamey. You have 3 types of attacks, and this is when you dodge. It felt super, and when I'm saying felt gamey, what I mean is like, when you come up to a boss and it's very, very obvious, like when you fight something in Mega Man, it feels very, very obvious. Or when you fight someone who has 3 dark spots, 3 big red spots, this is where you're supposed to hit, and you hit it 3 times, the Zelda type of boss. Stuff like that, it feels gamey, and not in a good way. I'm not immersed by the thing. It feels like this boss is here because it's a game boss, not because it's part of the world that exists there. And the combat just did not feel deep enough for me. And the thing that made me close the game, is, oh, and by the way, there's 2 different currencies, which I despise. I don't understand why there's 2 different currencies. I think it's a horrible idea. I don't like it at all. I didn't get too deep into understanding exactly what the 2 different currencies mean, but I don't like the fact that they're there in the first place. The one thing that made me really, really shut down the game, and that told me that they don't even have faith in their combat system and in the basic things that Dark Souls does, which is give you stats for your character and then do whatever the hell you want, and the combat is the core, is the skill tree. There's a skill tree. And I looked at the skill tree and my face just went, ugh. Because I just looked at... Why? I pretty much hate skill trees in most cases because they don't work, because they don't do what I want them to do, and they always feel terrible. They almost always feel terrible, and it's a very almost always because I think that it is incredibly well executed and incredibly well done, and it fits perfectly in a game such as Path of Exile. Path of Exile has a humongous, terrifying skill tree, and I feel totally fine with it, and I felt totally fine with it back when I first started the game as well. Now I obviously know a lot more about Path of Exile. I don't play it anymore, but I know the game and I understand what's happening in the skill tree. But the first time I went in, it still felt fine because there's enough other systems, and the gameplay type that the gameplay is, the action type that it is, works very well for what they try to do there with the passive skill tree. This skill tree tells me they don't have enough faith in the combat system, and the combat system is in the stat system and basically the character progression. They don't have enough faith in it in the core of I just almost said Baldur's Gate instead of Dark Souls for some goddamn reason. I have no idea why. That Dark Souls does, and that really made me, okay, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to play this, and I refunded the game after 40 minutes of playing it, and that is a very harsh verdict. That's something very, very difficult to say, and once again, I don't think that it's an entirely bad game. I think that I came in with a lot of expectations, and that is my bias and my problem when coming into this game. But with that said, after all is said and done, I still don't have any desire to play it. I doubt I will in the future. I might, but definitely not going to buy it for $20 because I just don't want to play it as much. And it was a bit of a disappointment, no doubt. There's a lot of other games that are coming out eventually, or at times that I just didn't look up anymore because there's so many and I don't follow them. One that springs to mind is Eitr, which is EITR, which looks pretty interesting, also in a Dark Souls-ish kind of way, kind of more like Diablo. I don't know too much about it, and I'm looking forward to finding out more. And there's a lot of other ones, but specifically Salt and Sanctuary, not entirely for me. And it's kind of unfortunate, as I was hyped for it. But yeah, those are finally my thoughts about Salt and Sanctuary. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.